One.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to NPU Live. I'm Keri Rodriguez.
And I'm Tim Langen.
Today is April 24th, 2020, and folks, it's Friday. It is Friday. I know it's hard to keep track of the days, and as we always say, there's really only 3 days now: yesterday, today, and tomorrow. But today is a Friday.
It's a Friday.
You could make it a movie night. You could make it a pizza day. You could do something to celebrate because you've got through week 6 of quarantine. I feel like we should have like an applause track or something. Oh man. Whew. Tough morning, tough
week.
These parts, but
Jesus.
Yeah, it's been a tough one, but you know what? We got through it.
That's right.
You know, we mentioned people have kind of gone through their tough weeks.
Yep.
You know, it ebbs and flows where we're filled with positivity, love, and light.
Yeah.
This is going to be okay.
We're alive, well, and safe, right?
That's right.
So we're very blessed.
So let's focus on gratitude.
Exactly.
And, you know what we can do to make the best
Absolutely
out of this situation
that's
we're
right
right now, and that's what this program's all about: providing you a little hope, a little optimism, a little reality check too for those of us just trying to keep our sanity while we are parents at home.
Well, hopefully this will all help you keep your sanity. I said I would do this yesterday.
That's right. And I'm really excited about it. Tim was challenged to sing. He was given by our delegates. You know, it's you know, this is kind of interesting too, because you were challenged by our delegates from across the country.
Yep.
They gave you Lizzo to sing a song.
Yep.
And you know,
well, let me say something.
There, Tim,
they give me some songs that I could have sang that I know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm picking a song I don't know. And artists I'm not that familiar with, because I'm going outside of my wheelhouse, outside of my comfort zone.
We're all outside our comfort zone. But
that's right.
No pressure or anything. Just want to remind you, this program reaching more than $1
million. So $1 million, a million people. Sorry.
More than 1 million people every week.
More coffee.
So yeah. So no pressure or anything, Tim.
That's okay. I'll be honest with you. I don't know the song that well past the chorus, which it opens up with, so I'm gonna.
I think this is gonna be ugly, but
sing,
you know
well,
what?
It will be
that's
ugly,
okay.
But that's okay. So would you like to introduce the song?
Yes. So this is a Lizzo song. It's good as hell. Good song. Little female empowerment song. And
that's right. Well,
that's
how I roll. I like to empower people.
I was listening to some Lizzo in the shower.
Oh, were you? Were you?
Is that yeah?
Maybe we should have recorded that singing.
Maybe.
Okay, this is "Good as Hell" by Lizzo.
Are you going to be accompanied? Like, you've got some music here. Are you going to play it, or are you just going to sing it? Or
I'm not going to play the music because then they're going to shut it down.
That's right.
God knows Facebook
does not like
it. Copyright infringement. I don't know what their deal
this
is.
This one is going out to Tafshir, to Vivette, to Maritza.
Can you hum the tune for me?
No, I cannot. Acapella, baby.
Okay,
Maritza is ready for you. Our friend from Philadelphia, she is ready.
Well, I'm sure
New Jersey in
ready.
the house.
Well, this one goes out to Lizzo, the census, Maritza, Tashfir.
And registering to vote.
Registering to vote. Get the vote out. Okay, this is good as hell. I do my hair toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Feeling as good as hell. Hair toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Feeling good as hell.
So it's more like,
woo, child, tired of the bullshit. Go dust your shoulders off. Keep it moving. Yeah, Lord, Trina, get some new shit. In there, swimwear, go on to the pool shit. Come now, come dry your eyes. You cut me off?
I think we're good.
Okay, we're good?
I
okay.
We're good.
Anyway.
Well, that was a thing that you did, Tim.
I did that. I stand by my promises.
Yeah. Great job.
Thanks a lot. I'm sensing some sarcasm there, but that's okay.
Great job. Okay. What else? Let's get to the.
Let's talk about some COVID-19 now that I've cheered everyone up.
Yes.
Deaths, unfortunately, have hit a peak of 49,963 deaths out of 896,172 cases. So almost 900,000 cases, almost 50,000 deaths.
We do want to mention something. Frankly, I'm a little horrified that we even have to mention this, but unfortunately, given the state of leadership in this country, it is our obligation and our responsibility as folks that reach a lot of people to tell you that it is not advisable to inject yourself
Nope.
With any kind of disinfectant, to ingest it, whether that's Lysol, bleach, any fabuloso, anything like that. Do not put it in your body. It does not cure the coronavirus or COVID-19. And we have to say that to you because the President of the United States yesterday threw that out as a possible solution, possible cure.
Yeah.
Also talking about UV rays or sunlight,
right?
Which are not known cures for the coronavirus.
No. There is no known cure for the coronavirus.
So Lysol actually having to put out an official statement.
And the official statement is, I love the guy who wrote this because I love brevity. Please don't drink our product. Lysol. Lysol saying, don't drink our product.
So we're just going to remind you, CDC guidelines, telling you to keep your mouth and your nose covered. Please try to stay at home, stay at least 6 feet away from people, and listen to the advice of your governor. If you're in a state with a governor that you're not really that sure about, maybe
don't listen to Governor Cuomo.
Listen to President Governor Cuomo, President Governor Gavin Newsom, both guys that tend to do a lot of decision making for many millions of people.
President Keri Rodriguez, you're president of the National Parents Union.
I am, and I listen to what President Governor Cuomo, President Governor Gavin Newsom, and doctors and scientists say. So just putting it out there. Please don't drink Lysol. Cover your mouth and nose. And it's 2020, and I cannot believe that is.
No, there's no bloodletting. Again, there's one Earth.
Ooh.
It's not flat, and there's not Middle Earth.
Yeah. I gotta say, I'm having a little moment here. I was a news reporter and a news anchor for a very long time, and never during the course of my career did I think I would be providing a public update of that nature, where seriously I would have to clarify that is in fact a thing. So,
two things that won't cure corona: Lysol and Confederate flags. Just wanted to go there.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, speaking of other things, stormy weather. We have some weather going on, and if you are on the Midwest, Great Plains area, you have some rains and thunderstorms coming your way. And if you are around Texas and Oklahoma, eastern Oklahoma, you've got some major rain, severe thunderstorms coming. So please open up your umbrellas. And for the East Coast folks, we have rain coming.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Tim.
There you go. I'm really getting out of my comfort zone today.
Fabulous update. Oh, one last thing we did want to mention was you found something interesting. Google Arts and Culture. Tell us.
Google Arts and Culture. So you're stuck in the home this weekend. What do you want to do? I know here in Boston, can't go to Legoland, can't go to the Museum of Science. Want to get out? Check out Google Arts and Culture. That's where you can do a lot of those 360 tours of museums and go see exhibits. I had it up here, but now it's replaced by Lizzo lyrics. But I know I'm going to go check out a Frida exhibit this weekend.
Ooh.
And a dinosaur exhibit. So I'm pretty excited. You can also go visit the Grand Canyon.
That's incredible.
Because as you know me, I'm not like a big hiking nature guy. I'm not big on jumping on a mule.
But you're interested in taking a look at some pictures of it, right?
Looking at some pictures of it. It looks really pretty.
It's amazing. Actually, Joe Biden mentioning on his live stream, was interviewed by his granddaughter a couple of days ago, talking about like the most incredible thing he's ever seen. He said the Grand Canyon. So
there you go. Well, I'll see if I agree with him.
To explore that.
I'll let you know.
Check it out.
If you have any tips, topics, or anything else you think I should do this weekend, please send to info@npunion.org. That's info@npunion.org. And also, please tune into the rest of our shows over the course of the week. Today, of course, we'll have Christina Laster on at 2 p.m. We'll have our Spanish show on at noon. We'll be closing out the day with Marisol tonight at 9 p.m. Every Thursday.
Dad's a dad.
Dad's a dad. Gotta check out Dad's a dad. And next week, we have some great guests. We're going to have Paige Kowalski from the Data Quality Campaign. We're going to have our good friend Nehemiah Frank back from Black Wall Street Times. I'm really excited about Thursday. Virginia Walden Ford, legendary parent advocate, and the subject of Miss Virginia. So please tune in then.
Yeah, Miss Virginia, an incredible movie that was just released a couple of months ago.
That's great.
She did a national tour, and what an opportunity to be able to check out her struggle and her story.
I'm really excited.
Yeah, so that's going to be great. Also, Keri Gu from Great Schools.
Yes.
Great Schools doing some incredible work over the past few weeks, helping parents find some tools and resources. They're an incredible resource in the best of times too, helping you make data-driven decisions about your schools. So, certainly excited to talk about their efforts and what they've been working on. So.
That's great.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much, Tim. We are excited. We've got some great guests today, too. Some new friends of our organization, the National Parents Union. I want to say good morning to delegates across the country who are doing incredible work out in the streets, getting people registered to vote online and making sure that they are connected to their communities, again, across the country. So good morning to all of you. Glad to have you with us. Love to have you checking in the comment section. So if you've got any questions this morning, make sure you participate and share the show as well. That's how we get to 1 million viewers, is because all of you are activating the network. So want to send out love and appreciation this morning for that as well. Our first guest this morning is from a very special organization called Seek Common Ground. She's coming to us from Washington, D.C. We're just outside, and we want to find out from her what's happening in her family, what's happening in her neighborhood and her organization. We're excited to welcome Sandy Boyd joining us from Seek Common Ground. Sandy, how are you? Good morning.
I'm good. How are you?
Oh man, we are blessed trying to make it through week 6 as parents.
Absolutely.
Our new roles. How are things happening with you? Are you right in DC right now?
I'm on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. So I'm about an hour and a half from DC, hour from Baltimore, and about a little bit out in the country.
Gotcha.
Not a bad place to be.
How has quarantine been to you? Like, how has it been for you? How has it been for your family? How are you surviving?
Well, it's funny. I was thinking about this yesterday. I'm also a parent, but I have a slightly different experience. My kids are in their 20s, so they're adults. So we're social distancing from them. And I know for those of, for parents who have like little kids at home and are trying to do school and like have so much going on, that probably sounds like a dream, but it's really hard, right? It's hard not to be with your kids, even though they're adults and they're living their own lives. So
even as they get big, you want to protect them and put them in a bubble, right?
Absolutely. You're always their parent. And that's sort of always the first thing. And so my son's actually doing COVID research for a contractor. So he's kind of in the thick of it. And my daughter is the kindergarten teacher in Baltimore. So I have sort of daily discussions about sort of what she's hearing from parents, what she's hearing from other teachers, how they're trying to improve their practice every day. So it's great, but it's hard to be so far away.
I can imagine. How is your daughter doing as a kindergarten teacher? We talked a little bit off air about her experiences, but I think it's so valuable to see, how she's doing, the loss that she's feeling right now, being away from those kids and what she shared with you.
Yeah. So the very first thing she and her team figured out was that their parents were a lot of whom are essential workers. People have very different schedules and home lives, different access to technology. So she knew all of her kids were on Class Dojo. She was Facebook friends with a lot of the parents. She had people's phone numbers. So she just decided she was going to try to be in touch and stay in touch in any manner possible. And in one of her very first FaceTime interactions with a student, which she was checking in with people right away, this little 5-year-old boy said to her, like, "Miss Arnold, are you okay? How are you?" And that just really stunned her because, of course, as a teacher, her first thought was, well, no, how are you? Like, we ended probably the school year like super abruptly. One day it was school, then it was a weekend, then you didn't come back. No time for transition. But a lot of the kids, their first thought was like, "Are you okay?" And so
to me, as a mommy of a 1st, 2nd, and 6th grader,
Yeah.
You know, that makes a lot of sense, because a lot of what, you know, especially my first grader has been processing is the loss of that relationship with his wonderful teacher. There is something special between a little boy and his first grade teacher, who is like a superhero and knows everything and is smart and is the most beautiful and all of these things, and like is just this incredible person in his life. And I got to tell you, the first time my son's first grade teacher sent him a little video, just a little, I think it was maybe 35 seconds long, and she said his name. He lit up like a Christmas tree, and he played it. I think he's still playing it. Like, he must have played it 45 times in a row. Like, did you see that she said my name? Like, she still remembers me. She still knows me. She still cares about me. And, you know, it's just incredible, those relationships that our little ones have with their teachers, and how they're mourning that right now.
Absolutely. And as a result of that, one of the first things she and the other two teachers in their team decided to do was, once they realized that everybody could access YouTube, and even though the district did a good job of, you know, paper packets and they did a bunch of stuff sort of centrally, I think they figured out pretty quickly it was really important to keep that relationship going. So they started doing YouTube videos of phonics lessons, morning messages, math lessons, with links to some materials. And they now actually have taken all their YouTube videos and put it up on a website that everybody can access from a smartphone, from a tablet, you know, from a computer. You can get to it anytime. And it's funny, Lindsay does the same thing. If people send her work, she'll mention their name, right? Or she'll say like, so-and-so wanted me to read this book, so today we're going to read this book. And
like, oh my God,
I'm on TV. So she's hearing from parents and kids all the time, like how important that is. And imagine this with 5-year-olds, because you're doing it here on Facebook, right? With she has 2 or 3 times a week, she just has like class meetings on a platform where whoever's available can get on. And she always does one on the weekend too, since a lot of parents, you know, are working different schedules. So she's trying to make sure they can all not just see her, but like see each other. Because those relationships were really, you know, were really broken too, in ways that I think little kids are probably still trying to process. I mean, we're all trying to process it, right?
Right. Oh my gosh. And it's such an incredible moment. Like, and it's wonderful to see, you know, our teachers stepping up, even our young teachers getting very creative about like, how do we use this technology to connect with our kids, and also being considerate of the fact that like, parents have different contexts. And I think that's really critically important. And it kind of gives me a great segue to launch into your organization. You guys are equity focused, as we are, the National Parents Union. Again, this vibrant organization of parent advocacy organizations across the country, working on making sure that our kids have equitable access to high quality education, however it comes. You know, we're not the parents that march for a governance model, we march for outcomes. And they, as they stand, are not equitable for kids like ours. And so that is our mission, that is our drive across the country, and something that you're working on. You're working with state and local organizations to help to provide solutions. So tell us a little bit about Seek Common Ground and what you guys are working on.
Sure. Well, we work with primarily state, sometimes state and local organizations that are driving policy, they're advocates, they're communicating. They usually have really amazing relationships with the policymakers in their state. And when we started this work like 7 years ago, these groups were really focused on high expectations. So high standards, assessments, transparency of data. I love that you're having the data quality campaign on next week. We talk with them a lot, like how do we make sure, just as a baseline, right, that all kids, that the expectations are set for all kids in the same manner, and then we can work on meeting them. But during the time that we've done that work, it really became apparent to us, right, that advocacy too often in our space, and I know you'll second me here, too often in our space has been pretty top down, right? Other people making decisions for other people. And so even with those statewide policy groups that have had such muscle in the state, we've really worked with them, because this is where they wanted to go too, and why I'm excited to connect with you guys today, right? They need to be better connected not just at the state level, but at the local and community level. What do their educators think? What do parents think, right? What do others for whom these policies have the biggest impact think? And how can we do a better job of promoting local and state policy that really is co-created with the people who are most impacted by it? So they've done, just recently, 11 different state organizations did work around measurement, assessment, and accountability. And as it turned out, a lot of what they focused on was building new relationships with parents and community groups to find out, well, what do you want out of your assessments? What are you getting now? What's missing? What do you want to see? And, how are things going for you? And frankly, for statewide groups to be having those kinds of conversations with folks on the ground that are living it every day, like families, that's new and it's different. And I want to, our organization's mission is to do everything we can to help support policy making with folks who are most on the ground, right? So really bringing that kind of grassroots and grass tops, bring those groups together so that they're making decisions together. So
yeah, I think it's so important, and it's refreshing to hear that, because so much policy, it's just, I say to people, it's balls that people would like decide what they're going to do to us and to our children,
right.
While not being in community or conversation with us at all. Like, we've just decided that this is what we're going to do to your children, and you have no say over it whatsoever. It's as if we're treated as if we hand over custody of our children to the school district to do with what they will. And if we, try to have some voice in that, it's often not respected, it's dismissed. And frankly, we may not show up in the traditional ways that they would expect. So often we're dismissed for that as well. Just because folks are poor, black or brown does not mean we're stupid. We know when folks are patronizing, when they're dismissive. And, we've seen that play out in really, really terrible ways in some states where, you have folks that I truly believe are well-intended. But, a lot of us are not looking for, the grand white saviors to come in and, fix our children with ideas without us, and I've always been, here in Massachusetts through Massachusetts Parents United, encouraging folks to work in a co-creative, collaborative way, because we just get better outcomes. We've seen for too long, folks coming up with these elegant policy solutions around, fancy glass conference room tables. And then when they try to implement those policies in our neighborhoods, they fall flat, and they wonder why. And why we won't engage. And, if you come to parents when the cake is already baked, we're going to know that. And if you're not willing to listen, you're just checking a box like we must engage parents. We know that too. Things just seem to work better. And I'd love for you to kind of maybe talk through maybe some of those successes where you've seen, this process work so that you're actually coming out with better solutions.
Yeah, I will say one thing. Not only do I think outcomes are better, but I think one thing that happens that's a frustration, frankly, to those people in those glass conference rooms, right, who are coming up with elegant solutions, is that they can come up with a beautifully crafted solution, maybe even objectively the right solution or a good solution, but it doesn't stick, right? It has no stickiness to it because they didn't engage people. And so that's, to me, and maybe that, that's my best argument to the people in the glass conference rooms, right? Like, that doesn't work, right? And you're frustrated that those solutions that you keep coming up with that you think are going to solve problems, just keep getting undermined. They're super easy to like politically hit on, so like, why don't you try it a different way? What if we actually set a goal in a place like, we want to see all, like our shared goal is to make sure that all kids meet grade level expectations or have access to high quality, instructional materials or whatever your goal is. But why don't you let that be co-created by the community about what that actually looks like? And I think it's hard for decision makers, right, at every level, state level, the district level. It's just not how things have been done. So I think there's a lot of fear about that.
Is it ego? Is it like political turf? What is it that makes it so difficult for some of these folks to be willing to listen and enter into a collaborative process with folks?
I think it's all of the above, but I think it's also just a little bit of fear. And here's the other thing: you have to be willing, if you're going to engage in those conversations, to not get everything you want. Mm-hmm. Right? Like maybe your solution to that problem isn't going to work on the ground, or it doesn't speak to the people that it's actually intended for, and you're going to get maybe what you would view as being a 70%. But you know what? Whatever you get co-created, it's going to stick, and then you can build from it. Because I feel like we keep having the same discussions. What are the standards? What are the expectations? What do kids need to know and be able to do? What should assessments look like? We've been having those same discussions for 20 years. And we know like performance is flat or worse, right? So it's not getting us where we need to be. So why not try this idea of creating solutions with the communities who are most impacted by them? I'll give you one quick example, because you asked me that, and I'm sorry I talked around it. Back when I was at Achieve was actually responsible for developing the next generation science standards. And generally speaking, standards period were developed in glass conference rooms, right? But in this case, we saw the downsides of doing things that way. And with the science team, we created a plan where states who wanted to be part of the development of the standards had big feedback groups that included teachers and parents and administrators and the business community and higher ed and people that might actually have something to say about the content of science standards. So the development process, and this to me is just the key in everything, whether it's policy or a communications plan or something as academic as standards. People had a chance to look at it and give comment in whatever way they could at whatever level they could. And we tried to make it as accessible as possible too, right? Like this is what it means for parents, for students in the classroom. And so there were these big feedback loops. There were public feedback processes. And then the standards were put out there. And it was very much our intention that the best way to actually adopt these standards was to do them state by state, right? To go through a rigorous process where, again, in a state, people had time and the opportunity to give their feedback. And that might mean that the standards at the end of the day looked a little bit different. And there were certainly people that were going to make sure that they were scientifically sound, right? But it's interesting to me, the difference between what happened with those science standards, which are in one way or another, really the science standards for every state in the union, and the kind of fight that people had, for example, after the Common Core, right? It was all about the process. People were engaged in the process, had the opportunity. Sometimes it's just the option, right? You don't have to engage in everything, but just the option.
Yes, and not we're just going to blanket this on top of you. And frankly, getting folks to be open enough, like those policymakers and those folks around the table to be open to say like, hey, maybe these folks have some good ideas.
Yes.
Like overall standards. Like one of the things that we hear from parents across the country, very common, when they talk about what they want out of schools, like when we talk about Common Core, when we talk about, whatever should be included in curriculum, parents are always saying, we want our kids to have financial literacy curriculum. We want a standard around what our kids should know about their own personal economies by the time they leave high school. That's something, that we kind of dismiss. Oh yeah, whatever parents. But it's very frustrating because that's a common thread. Like if you brought parents together in Boston, in San Diego, in Seattle, Washington, or Miami, Florida, I guarantee you they would say, why aren't they teaching kids financial literacy? Why is there not a standard around that? But for some reason, that's not heard in a lot of places. it's very frustrating for us as parents. Like, and we can dig into like the major areas, the sciences, the STEM, curriculum. We can talk about, whether or not art should be and what standards should look like around a whole host of things. But it is kind of frustrating for parents to keep banging on this door and not be heard at all, because, the powers that be feel like they know better and they're going to tell us what our kids need. So digging into this.
Your work and the work of groups that are open to hearing and open to and want and are pushing, and I would add student voice to this category too, right? I think we're demanding things that were not demanded of policymakers in the past, right? Standards have been around for a long time. It wasn't until the Common Core, I think, that most parents actually knew what a standard was, right? Mm-hmm. There was no transparency around that, right?
Because you think about like who is engaging us and who's in conversation. Like, it's very frustrating for me as a parent. I remember, I'm only 5 or 6 years into education, politics, and policy. I came to this as a parent advocate who was really frustrated. I'm a former union organizer that said, is this really what this is? As I've kind of grown in my own knowledge and watch other parents kind of grow in their knowledge around this stuff, it is just, it's crazy when you think about like the lack of respect that's shown at all, the lack of like just overall, community or conversation, as if it's not necessary at all for us to be in these spaces. Massachusetts, again, I'll bring it to our example that we just did last year. We passed a $2.2 billion education funding bill after killing a previous bill, the Promise Act, because there were no standards in that bill at all. And what we've come to learn here in Massachusetts and across the country is that, because only the teachers unions have engaged us and kind of what I feel like is manipulated the conversation to indoctrinate parents to this point where any standards, any accountability, any testing is bad, because it wounds our children, just the act of being tested. But they're the only people in conversation with us. They're the only people like actually saying, testing is bad. So if that's all you're hearing, of course, you're going to be ideologically predisposed to that opinion. What we've come to learn and what I've come to experience as a parent is, just thinking about testing as if, this is an assessment. I need to know what my child's educational health is. I wouldn't bring my child to a doctor that didn't use a thermometer to tell me, whether or not my child was healthy. Testing and assessment is a tool by which, I can have information so I can figure out what I need to do for my child. And if my child is feeling overwhelmed or stressed to the point of, we hear about children just so stressed out, like I've even seen my own children, physical manifestation, oh my gosh, testing, assessment, all of this stuff. I want to know who is creating the environment in which my child is so stressed out that they are, physically manifesting, symptoms because they're nervous about taking an MCAS exam. It's crazy.
Well, and also the irony to me, right, is that teachers, let's be honest, teachers love testing. Teachers test, right? Teachers know where your kids are at. They're testing all the time, whether it's classroom tests or formative tests, like they're testing all the time. So some of the pushback or the argument, right, is about those statewide tests and the purpose for which they're used. But as a practical matter, teachers test, right? It's part of what they do. When you get to the end of the unit, you test. When you get to a skill, you test. So for me, I think part of the thinking about this maybe differently, and does COVID give us an opportunity to think about some of these things differently? Well, what is it that parents need to know about where their kids are at, right? And what do parents need to know, should know about the skills that folks think are skills and knowledge that folks think are most important in every grade? And then how are we going to make sure that parents, especially as we go into the next school year, which is probably disrupted and a little disjointed, how can a parent know kind of at any point, like, well, how is my kid doing against those things that teachers and administrators and everybody else agrees are the most important things for a kindergartner to know, for a first grader to know, for a second grader to know, right? What's the visibility into that look like so I can help my kid? And then I also have a way to talk to my teacher, right? Like, how do you start the conversation if you don't have some sense about that? Like, I see a kindergartner needs to be able to count to 100 by ones and tens. And we were practicing that with green beans the other day. And I know my kid can't do that. So now what?
So a couple of things I want to bring up that you're just sparking to my mind, as we go into this conversation. When I went through kindergarten and first grade orientation, I wrote a blog post on my blog, EduMom, about how fascinating it was that we spent 45 minutes, in that orientation. That was mandatory. You have a captive audience of parents that must be there for our children to enter the school. 45 minutes talking about the procedure by which you're going to pick up your children outside the building, and maybe 10 minutes about what they're going to be learning.
Content.
Kindergarten and first grade. It blew my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know those things. I have no idea. And frankly, what we as parents are experiencing right now as the new teachers, and I'm calling us the new superintendents of our own school districts here, what is fascinating is that we are actually going through that process that you're talking about counting those green beans and seeing where our kids are. We have valuable information that we're going to need to be providing a lot of our educators and administrators going into the future to determine what our kids are going to need to kind of deal with regression and mitigate learning loss. So we're calling here for a 360-degree assessment, similar to what we see in the IEP process for parents, where parent input is needed. It's mandatory. You've got to do it in order for special ed teachers to have the data they need to best serve your child. Now, where we're going to have a generation of trauma-impacted kids, I think now is the time that parents step up as part of that assessment process, so that we're able to provide parent or our educators with that information. The other piece I want to get your thought on, not only that and whether or not you think that's valuable, but the other piece is around empowering parents in these coming months. We don't know what our kids are supposed to know. We don't know how long they're supposed to be engaged with academic content. Most empowering thing I have seen since we have closed schools came out of the state of Indiana, the chart that told me a kindergartner, a minimum of 30 minutes, a maximum of 60 minutes engagement throughout the day with academics, and that my kid's attention span is supposed to be 5 to 7 minutes. Oh my God, I had no idea that was what so I'm here, having fights with my kids because you're not following the schedule that tells me you're supposed to be doing math for an hour and you're getting up and wiggling after 12 minutes. You're not supposed to be sitting there. Of course you're like, so two questions here. One, should parents, be a part of that incoming assessment, as we look to reopen schools? And where are parents getting information about what we need to know right now to help our kids at home?
Well, that's actually something I'm hoping that's something that we can do. And it would be great to have you as a partner to actually help identify in a way that's just much more accessible than I think is out there now, sort of a grade by grade, what your kid needs to know and be able to do, with grounded in kind of the academic content, the academic expertise, and also knowing that that's what the conversations that are happening with administrators and teachers too, right? Because that's really important. Not every standard in every subject is going to be as critical as some of the building blocks in math and for little kids, like phonics and ELA, right? So like, what are those? How will we know? So it seems to me just having some general information and really scaled back resources, because I'm sure you hear this too. It seems that there are so many good sites that have resources that it's almost like there's so much that there's nothing, right? It's hard to actually get through it all. So like, how do we give people kind of more manageable pieces of information? And once you actually then know like what your kids should know and be able to do, I love the idea of having individual learning plans for kids, right? Where people like take those, at least the basic things that we think of first grader by the end of first grade needs to know and be able to do, and have somebody tell, have the conversation after a diagnostic assessment, after observation. Here's what we see. What do you see? And then if there are gaps, where there are gaps, you can have a plan for how you're going to fill them together.
And I really wish we had approached
baseline knowledge, right? So that everybody's on the same page about what's important, and then we can build from there.
And that's why I wish from the beginning of this, we had engaged parents around what we need and what we want from education systems in this moment, because what parents wanted was teachers to call us and empower us with that information. They have the information we need. Setting up a schedule of teacher conferences where teachers, instead of trying to whip up Google Classroom, would have instead gotten on the phone with parents and said, hey, you're thinking about your daughter. I'm thinking about my first grade son. Hey, this is what I know about David.
Yes.
David is working on reading at this level right now. He should try these books. He's really good at math. This is what he's doing in Prodigy. He has some difficulty in the afternoons following directions because he has too much energy. Maybe that's a good time to run him, and instead of trying to get him to read. Like, that information that teachers have about our kids would have been really empowering. Like, just instead of jumping into this, blast of information and, oh my God, overwhelming the existing infrastructure. But you know what? Nobody asked us. Nobody asked us what we wanted and what we needed.
Yep. And it's funny, and I think all parents, because I've heard this sort of both ways, right? If you happen to have a teacher and a relationship with a teacher where you had personal contact right away, they're staying in touch with you, they'll answer your questions, your experience during this crisis is very different than if you're relying on just the deluge of stuff that's coming from the district.
That is true. And, because of, racism does not take a break during the pandemic. Inequity does not take a break during the pandemic. The level of relationship and, the parent engagement problems that we know exist throughout our system, those didn't go away because we closed schools and we had to change direction. So, Sandy, our time is short. So I appreciate this conversation. I want to follow up with you on how we can be helpful and effective. We have, folks across the country, a beautiful parent council, and organizations all over the country that want to be engaged in these conversations and are fighting to be engaged in these conversations through their organizing. And, I think, coming together to come up with these solutions is going to be far more effective. So I hope we can continue this.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I appreciate being on today.
So wonderful to be with you. Sandy Boyd is from Seek Common Ground, joining us from just outside of Washington, D.C. Incredible organization. You can visit them at seekcommonground.org. And I love to hear, organizations that are thinking deeply about how do we engage people on the grassroots, so that our voices are heard, so we can come up with more effective policy solutions. Just so wonderful. Thank you so much, Sandy, for joining us. Next, another very special guest we're excited to have join us on the broadcast, Lawrence Wagner from Spark Mindset. He's actually joining us from Colorado. We are just ping-ponging all over the country today. But we're so excited to have Lawrence with us this morning. He's the Chief Executive Officer and founder of Spark Mindset. We want to check in with him to see how his organization is growing and changing, and how he's doing in Colorado, and how things are happening. Lawrence, are you with us?
Yes. Hi.
Hi. I love your background. I love your plants.
Thank you. Thank you.
Beautiful. So how are things going in Colorado? You're in Colorado Springs, right?
That's correct.
So how's your family? How's your community? What's going on in Colorado?
My family, my mom's doing well. But she's in Cleveland. I'm doing well here in Colorado, staying in place and staying safe. And so I think our community is trying to adjust and adapt to what's going on. I was actually in New Orleans when all of this started and got back. So Colorado Springs school system shut down, all of Colorado, the day before I came back, and then New Orleans shut down while I was leaving. So
Yeah, it's crazy to be in the middle of this. You know, we founded the National Parents Union. We had kind of been working organically, but actually brought, you know, more than 200 people, almost 300 people together in New Orleans to found the organization. And now you think about, you know, the fact that COVID-19 was probably down there when we were doing this. You know, we were just in San
Yes.
Francisco. It blows your mind just to think about how quickly life has changed. And, you know, even just the idea of traveling to New Orleans or anywhere right now is kind of incredible. But I'm excited that you're in Colorado. Your governor is a friend of ours, Jared Polis. He's a smart dude. So I feel like you're in good hands. You know, I'd be worried if you were in South Dakota, Wyoming, some of these other places. But I feel like you're good.
Or Georgia.
Oh,
Georgia,
yes,
Georgia's not the place to be right now.
my goodness, my goodness. Did you hear the mayor of Las Vegas? You know.
Yes. Yeah, I heard that. Yeah. That's all I can say is I just.
My goodness. So talk to us about Spark Mindset. Tell us what you guys are working on, you know, during non-COVID times, and you know what the founding of your organization.
Yeah, so Spark Mindset is preparing middle school and high school students for cybersecurity careers. Our overall goal is to break the cycle of poverty in low-income communities. And we want to do is give access to students who normally don't get access to these kind of STEM career fields. We picked cybersecurity because it was one of the fastest growing STEM career fields with an estimate of 3.5 million unfilled jobs by 2021. The industry is supposed to grow by 14% each year until 2025. So how do we get our kids into these career fields? One of the ways is giving them access, because they don't know, the parents don't know what this career field exists. The kids don't know that this exists. And we wanted to do it in a fun and engaging way. So we teach kids. They have a regular lesson like with a regular teacher, but we implement virtual reality with that. So we take concepts of cybersecurity and we make virtual reality games so kids can learn.
So I love this for like 9 different reasons. Okay. The first reason is because it seems like you understand what students and parents are looking for. You know, I always say, you know, there are some folks in education that are here for, they're here. It's like when a girl gets engaged, she's so excited about the wedding day, she forgets about the marriage, right?
Right.
Where you get some folks who are really excited about the wedding day, which the educational equivalent would be graduation day. Parents, we're here for the marriage. You know, our relationship with the kids does not end on the wedding day. We are here for life. We want them to be happy, successful, have incredible, the whole reason why we go through this whole education rigmarole is so that they can get to an amazing career, so that they don't have to work as hard as we do, so that they're successful and happy. And frankly, they're going to give us lots of beautiful grandbabies and not be stressed out with them too. Like that's the goal, right? Happy people creating. So when we talk to parents, and we've even done polling in Facebook or you know, the interactive focus groups with folks, you know, talking about what do parents really want? They talk about career pathways. They want to understand and be connected. Why is my child learning these things, and how does it get them to a career where they're going to have a great job and a great life? And so I love, you know, the fact that, you know, folks like you are hearing this and saying, okay, from the beginning, you know, cybersecurity, we all know it's important. We're living in a digital age right now. It's a job that we're always going to need. We want our kids to be prepared, but we don't know how to get them there. You know, a lot of us are survivors of the public education system. We don't have a lot of, it sounds great, but, you know, how do we advise our kids as their top advisor, like, okay, this is how you do it. This is how you start to build those muscles. You use your brain. These are the different pathways so that you can get there. So I love this because A, it gets kids excited. It uses technology. And I'm thinking about my 3 little boys that love prodigy math. And if I can trick them into loving, you know, math or loving science through like a game, I'm up for that because I know that they're learning. I can see it. but it's also getting them prepared for what they can do in the future. So what's the reaction you're getting from students and parents? They must love this.
Well, so we're launching our high school program in New Orleans in 2021. Parents have loved it so far with our middle school camps, and the kids have loved it because they're not just being taught, but they're also engaging in the material. And so that's been really, really good and really good, helpful to, again, get kids to be interested in it. We have like girls who are thinking about doing cybersecurity. I mean, we have minority students that's like, hey, like, I've never thought about this career before. And I think one of the things I want to elaborate what you were saying is the whole child. When we look at our program, we think about the whole child. And that whole process to getting them a career. So in our high school program, we are making sure that they get industry certifications. We're making sure that they have soft skills. And we also teach financial literacy as part of our program, because again, if I can get you a job making $55,000 coming out of high school and you don't know how to manage your money, then you're not going to come out of poverty. Yeah. And so we think about all these things, and we were like gaining a lot of momentum right before COVID crashed.
Mm-hmm. So how do we, like, this is such a great idea. Obviously, it lights up kids, it lights up parents. It's really, you know, I feel like your whole idea behind this really incorporates, as we were just having in the last conversation too, listening to what students want, listening to what parents feel their kids need, and is so responsive. So COVID-19 comes along, you know, Lawrence, what are you thinking about? Has this completely derailed you, and how do you salvage this?
So it initially it did. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, the first few days of COVID, I was in shock. Because everything shut down. All our camps shut down, communications with the school shut down because they were figuring out what to do. And so what we did was we decided.
But Lawrence, you're a veteran, okay? You're a veteran of the U.S. Army. You don't surrender. You don't give up.
No,
so.
But no, and that is true. But the reality is, you do take a pause, right? So yeah. We took that pause, and now we've now shifted, and we're providing an online platform for middle school and an online platform for high schools. One of the things that we're going to do is move our games from virtual reality to augmented reality. So we're going to put that, kids will be able to see that on the website and be able to still experience that interactive part. We're going to do remote learning so that we'll have a live instructor that's going to teach the kids and then provide them with activities for them to do. One of the things, and we're launching our middle school camps on May 18th, and it's to be for 6th through 9th graders. And so, yes, we've pivoted, we're moving, we know what we want to do again, but we want parents' input. And so it was funny how you're talking about parents, we want parents' input. So even before we launched our program, we just put out a survey for parents to ask what parents are looking for when they are looking for an online platform. Because what happened is, parents went and teachers went from, okay, we always teach in the classroom, we always talk to our kids face to face, and then all of a sudden we are now doing not online learning, we're doing remote learning, and those are two separate platforms. And teachers weren't prepared for that, parents wasn't prepared for that. And even in my career, like before I went to online, I went from classroom to some hybrid program to some online program when I was getting my master's degree, right? So I had a chance to like transition. A lot of kids didn't, right? And so you made a great point. Like, we're teaching remote learning and we're expecting kids to like sit in front of a computer with no activities for 50 minutes, for an hour, for 2 hours. That's not going to work. Like, you're not going to keep any kids' attention span, let alone a 6th through 9th grader attention span to sit there and listen to you for 2 hours.
Yeah, I have a 6th grader. I feel that in my soul.
Yeah, and so what we're doing is we are looking for parents' feedback from now into the 30th, and then we would take that feedback and incorporate it in what we're doing. Our program is going to be 5 modules. It'll be either a week to 3 weeks long, with 50-minute classes. They're broken up with, like I told you, different activities, and it's all to get them prepared for cybersecurity, get them interested in cybersecurity. And yeah, this is a fast and growing field. We need to level the playing field, right? So we talk about equity, we talk about things of these natures. Well, one, our communities, this is going to be the first time a lot of those communities actually have laptops, actually have Wi-Fi, because they're being provided these things because of COVID. So we have more access in our Black communities than we've had in our lifetime. And right, so how do we leverage that so they can actually now have access to these careers and these pathways that they may not have had in previous years?
So really turning this unprecedented challenge into opportunity by saying, okay, you do have the Chromebooks, you're getting access to Wi-Fi, you're online. Think outside the box, like not just the curriculum that is being provided. And it's funny because we've had this conversation around cultural curriculum, how now you as a parent have the opportunity to curate what education looks like. This is a way to kind of start to build that foundation where our kids can be thinking about the future and have access to resources in unprecedented ways. So there is opportunity in this moment of challenge.
Yes, and so now it's up to us to educate parents, because parents, again, when I spoke in front of a group of parents about cybersecurity, they didn't even know what cybersecurity was.
Yep.
They didn't know, and then they signed up their kids because of the opportunities, but then they came to me and it's like, well, what is cybersecurity? And so I think what we also want to do is do webinars for parents to just get them the idea of what cybersecurity is. But this is a time that we can really level the playing field. One of the things that frustrate me so much is when I hear, well, I want to hire someone based on merit and not their race and not their gender. And I was like, but Johnny gets access to this information in 3rd grade, and Jamal gets access to this information maybe in high school.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you level the playing field? Well, right now we have a perfect opportunity to level that playing field.
And one of the things that we've said since the launch of this organization is we know as mamas, and daddies across this country, talent is equitably distributed, but opportunity is not. And so It's about taking our talented, beautiful babies that are smart, bright, and beautiful and not broken, and giving them access to opportunity so that they know that things like having a career in cybersecurity is not only an option, it's possible for you. Now you have the technology. So Lawrence, I'm going to challenge you when you create those information summits and those webinars for parents, bring them to us so we can push them out. I don't know if you're going to limit the geography in terms of where you're going to offer this to parents and students, but we want to be able to connect the communities that we reach with you so that more folks are aware that this resource exists and that they can get connected with you directly. So I hope you'll do that.
Yes, I will. Actually, our online platform is going to be access to everyone, and so I will definitely keep you in the loop of the seminars that we're doing. Definitely want you to share the surveys, because we really want to hear from parents. I do not want to create a product that parents do not want to use, do not find valuable. And so to me, their input is critical to what we're doing. Because again, we want to provide the best experience for the students. And we also want teachers to give us their input, because teachers have been kind of doing this online thing for 6 weeks right now. And so, hey, what are some experiences that you've learned? So again, we want our experience for our children to be the best experience possible. And we know that we're not on an island, and there's people who have some information that can make it better.
This is a moment for collaboration, definitely.
Yes.
Mark Wagner, he's the founder of Spark Mindset, coming to us from Colorado, but he's actually from Ohio. So
Yes, I am.
Kelly Williams-Ballar, our beloved delegate to the National Parents Council, who holds it down for Ohio, and all of our friends in Ohio. I'm sure they're sending you love. Our folks from Colorado sending you love too. But launching this, across the country, we're going to get it out to our folks so that parents that are interested in getting their kids involved and thinking outside the box, like how can we prepare our kids for some of the most important jobs of the future that are going to be long lasting and successful for them to kind of grow into. Like, now's the time to be thinking big. So Lawrence, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
Yeah, and we have scholarships. So what we're doing is for parents who can afford to pay for our camps, to have them pay, and some of that money that parents pay is like Tom's shoes. We donate a portion of that to give scholarships to underserved communities. So
that's wonderful.
Really want to know that, like, hey, we work with you if you could not afford it to the full price.
And we can make sure all of that information is available. We're going to put up the website, www.sparkmindset.com. We'll make sure that's up in the comments, and we post about that so folks can find you. So amazing, making sure that this is equitably distributed so that our kids that may not be, wealthy in terms of resources, but have, all those brains that we need to unlock, will have access as well. So we're so grateful for that. Thank you so much, Lawrence. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right. It's Friday. It's April 24th. And we've made it through another week.
That's right. Thanks for another great show, guys. Another wonderful week.
Yes, it's been wonderful. And I was hoping you'd sing us out.
That's not happening again.
That's not
Doesn't happen.
happening?
Nice try, though. Nice try, though, guys.
All right. Well, thank you so much for
Have
being
a nice
with us.
weekend.
We'll be back on
You
Monday.
survived the pandemic.
That's
Goodbye.
We'll see you next week.